Welcome to Marduk's Muse, where Mario and I talk astrology, human design, and today we're putting out a quick little episode based on the death of Pope Francis. And Pope Francis died yesterday. He was a major world spiritual figure, major spiritual world figure, and his passing's got a lot of Catholics upset. Um, And so then thought to look at the astrology of it. The astrology of it is extremely interesting. Um, so I'm going to share the screen, and we'll just take a quick look at the astrology of Pope Francis. Okay, here we go, and then the screen is shared. Okay, Mario, what do you think? Just let me pull up let me remove the solar arc directed, and we'll just get to Pope Francis's chart to start with. Now, Pope Francis was considered a pope of the people, meaning that he was very
Oh,
appreciated by
give,
the working class.
give me a chance. Let me find it in the chart, and then you can.
Ah, there you go. Yeah. Well, that's the first clue, like Pope of the people. That's the first clue in the chart.
Well, let's see. We got a Cancer rising, and cancers are very sensitive to the other, to others in general, with that
Hmm. Hmm.
great, huge compassion. Look at that Jupiter in the seventh, conjunct
Hmm.
Mercury, conjunct the Sun. This guy's expansive. He takes in the whole world as his
Hmm.
he nurses and nourishes the world,
Hmm.
his whole outlook of being. And it's
Hmm. Hmm.
conjunct his North Node. It's who he is. And
Yeah. Yeah.
the ruler of his North Node and his sun is Jupiter, right? Am I reading that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah. Yep.
that's another more Jupiterian evidence for a man of the people, a man of the world. And December 17th is a beautiful time. I love people born around the 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th.
Hmm.
They're just
Oh, interesting.
amazing, compassionate beings who care about, the world and bringing their visions to the world.
Yep.
And South Node in the 12th with Chiron and Gemini. So he wanted to come into this lifetime and really give enduring support and guidance and vision for humanity, as opposed
Hmm.
to before, which would have been, just the day to day, just the mental, and with Chiron there, that's his wound, that's the past, that's his,
Hmm. Hmm.
he wanted to make the outer world right, in contrast to his tormented kind of inner world. Chiron in the 12th is very painful. I mean, it's an amorphous pain that has no boundaries and it's psychically triggered. It's very, very difficult. And look at that, Pluto in the first. So I mean, this is not a man without ambition. Obviously, he became a pope.
He
So,
did. He did indeed become a pope. Yeah. The 266th pope, as it is. Well, I think they count from Peter, right? So Peter, the Apostle Peter was the first, and 266th. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they count from some other pope, but I think they count from Peter. I look at the sun and the north, though they're conjunct in the sixth house, which is traditionally given to the lower class, to the workers, to the slaves, to the servants. And so I think he had some kind of identity with the common man there, because these days you don't call them slaves, you call them the common man, and they have like credit card debt or they live in favelas, and they're just like, the people who do all the work, the people who do the labor, the work, the people who are going to be replaced by AI and robots, and which is interesting because he was very pro UBI. He was very into universal basic
yeah, I
income.
heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as a pope, I find that interesting. And so yeah, Cancer too. I mean, Cancer risings, like cancers are ruled by the moon, and the moon also ruled people in astrology. And I mean, he was said to be a compassionate pope, and he's got that moon Venus conjunction in Aquarius in
Yeah.
the eighth house. So Saint Peter was the first pope. Um, But so he's the 266th. He was a little bit of a controversial figure. He started moving the Catholic Church towards accepting like accepting alternative forms of sexuality from just straight man and woman married having children. He also like really did believe in working for the people. He's a little bit more pro the South, pro Brazil, pro the Africa in terms of like helping them to have a little more power in the Catholic Church. So not necessarily super or a little bit divisive, MC conjunct Uranus and Taurus, a little bit divisive amongst the Catholics. Um, because certain Catholics, they like the way things were, and he was a little bit of a revolutionary pope. He was trying to liberalize to some degree the Catholic Church. We'll see how successful he was based on what the next person who gets the white smoke, uh, what the next person gets the white smoke does. Because they do that ceremony, right? Where they lock all the cardinals in a room and then they all have to like agree on who the next pope is going to be by secret vote. And until they all agree, then there's no white smoke coming out of the chimney in that room, So sometimes it takes like weeks before they all agree.
Wow.
It's quite the trip. Yeah. So, anyways, he died. He died yesterday. I believe he was, let's see, 88. Yeah, that kind of checks. Let's see. And then he died. Really interesting when he died. I'm just going to pull up the chart of his. First, I'm going to pull up the chart of his directed solar arc. And so, the first thing that I'm going to notice about this is that the ruler of his eighth is Aquarius in traditional astrology. Then that's Saturn, right? So the ruler of his eighth is Saturn, Aquarius. And Saturn by solar arc direction has come to square itself within a degree of squaring itself. So the ruler of the eighth is being squared by the ruler of the eighth. And of course, the eighth means depth. And so then to me, that's going to be a time when it's likely that a person is possibly going to leave this world. And so it happened.
When Saturn squares Saturn or the
When
ruler?
the ruler of the eighth is squared by the ruler of the eighth, or when Saturn squares the ruler of the eighth, or when Jupiter squares the ruler of the eighth, or when the moon squares the ruler of the eighth, or when Mercury, or when the sun squares the ruler of the eighth. I've seen all of those mentions in text. Basically, the malefics and the moon scoring the ruler of the eighth, as well as the ruler of the eighth itself, can have that implication. And there's tons of implications, tons of things in charts that can signify death. But those are five that you'll see if you go and you look back. You will see that appears at times. So yes, Saturn squares Saturn by solar arc direction. He also has his midheaven basically, by within a degree ish of Pluto, planet of death. So he has two significators in solar arc direction, because remember, all of these are moving forward 1 degree per year in solar arc direction, roughly. Um,
But
so,
that's
so
his Pluto.
that's
That's his Pluto conjuncting his solar arc midheaven, correct?
yeah. Well, that's his solar arc midheaven conjuncting his Pluto.
Okay, in reverse.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So those were the big significators that I see in the solar arc direction chart. Do you
Move your
see anything
cursor.
interesting there?
Can you move your cursor? It's in the way I can't see.
Oh yeah,
So in
sorry.
his
Yeah.
solar arc, he has Jupiter in Aries 2 degrees. And that's, if we count the transits, that's where the Aries ingress is happening. We got Neptune,
Oh,
Saturn,
right. Yep.
the
Yeah.
Venus star point there. So Jupiter's expanding that energy, that intense vanishing point on his 10th house cusp. Wow.
hmm
Age
hmm
of the world. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So he wasn't going to be involved in whatever comes next, I guess. Um, but whatever comes next, it doesn't look like he is going to be involved. And then if we take the current the chart for yesterday, it's super interesting because what we get is first of all Moon conjunct Moon in the eighth. So the Moon was conjunct the moon.
Lunar return, they're very common on death.
Lunar return. Lunar
Yeah,
return. They are
very
common at
common.
death. Oh yeah, yeah. I didn't know that. Um, we also have Jupiter conjunct his natal Chiron in the 12th. So then he was dealing with sickness. He
Right. He's
got
been sick for a
pneumonia,
month. Right. Yeah,
yeah,
he's
for a
been sick for a
month.
month.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was sick for a month. And then also during that sickness, like last month, then Mars, his natal Mars was squaring his transiting Mars was squaring his natal Mars
Oh,
during that sickness. So then that also like really kind of activated this 10th house that the Neptune just moved into. So then I do think that probably they're kind of covering up his sickness. Like I don't think they said he got better, but to me that doesn't really look like it got better. It looks like he was sick the whole time. They just got up and walking for a while.
got it. Got it. Yeah, it's so
What
many
do you
strange
think
things.
here?
Well, so many
Yeah.
things. I mean, in he's first off, he's a year of the rat Sag. So
Hmm.
this is someone who has like great wisdom, you know what I mean? Came in with a bunch of wisdom and Sag
Hmm.
with a inability to be kind of shut down. I mean, he needed to share his vision with the world. And he
Yeah.
comes at
Yep.
88. And 88 is always an interesting number. It's like the number of constellations in the sky, and it's just an interesting geometria number to die in 88. And yeah, it's very fascinating to see this chart and see and also to die at this time, right near the Aries vanishing point when everything, like you said, is like making a huge shift or a bifurcation is being set up, you know, and it's almost like two ways, two doorways are opening up, and
Hmm. Hmm.
humanity is going to go, and some of humanity may go in this direction, and some of humanity may go in that direction. But it's interesting because, you know, he's passing on what is this, right? The beginning of right after Easter,
Yeah.
Monday,
Yeah. He passed
Monday
on
after
Easter.
Easter. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he passed on Easter. And also, I noticed like when he was sick, and then in the last couple of weeks, Jupiter also squared Saturn, his natal Saturn. So that's that Saturn's being activated by solar arc progression and transit. And that's what I really like to see to confirm that this is like a dangerous time for someone. Is well, it's not just solar arc progression, but there's other planets activating the Lord of the Eighth. So if you got that going on, then you want to be like really careful. You want to take your vitamins. You want to go see your acupuncturist. You want to like like wear a condom. You want to like take care of yourself, rather than like put yourself in risk. You don't want to drive dangerously. On Easter Day, the day before Easter, he went out in the Pope Mobile and saw, the masses and like he was really in I don't know if he was really into, but there's photos of him like blessing people with leprosy and people who like had really kind of like difficult illnesses. And again, you can see he has that Sun conjunct North Node in the sixth house.
That's
So he was
vulnerability
not
too.
afraid to work with the sick. What?
That's also vulnerability, you know,
Yeah.
because the
Yeah.
North Node is like a Jupiter, so it's open to the world. So both in
Hmm.
a good and
Hmm.
a bad way, you know what I mean? And it's
Hmm.
an energy exchange, energy can come in. So if he was weak and feeble and sick, yeah, that
Hmm.
put him over
Hmm.
the edge.
Yeah, and Mercury was square Jupiter. So you have Jupiter square Saturn and Mercury square Jupiter, and Mercury and Neptune are at the very top of the chart in Aries, and he died from a stroke. And Aries rules the head,
Right.
and Neptune is kind of like the head, like that blockage or that fogginess or that lack of kind of clarity coming in, and Mercury is the thoughts and the way the synapses fire. So the whole thing just really tells the story really deeply. And I think that's why we wanted to share that with people on Marduk's Musing, because it's just it's one of those charts where like the astrology of it is so clear in a way that doesn't take a lot of detailed technical analysis. Anybody can look this up and study it and come to an understanding of basically how you can find and see death in a chart based on his chart, plus some of the principles of what motivated him. I mean, if we go away from like looking at him passing away, but we just go to like, well, there's that Saturn in the ninth. So what did he do? He held together a spiritual organization that was vast and Piscean. The symbol for Jesus is the Pisces. It's the fish. It's the Vesca Pisces. And so that's what he held together. I mean, that's what that Saturn was doing. And I think for him, I would guess that because of that Chiron and South Node in Gemini in the eighth, that it wasn't necessarily mentally easy for him to hold the organization, but he did it. He felt called to it and he did. I would guess with that Neptune in the third, because the third is like your own personal prayer, your own isolation. I would guess that he was very, very deep into his own personal spiritual practice, but that he went and did that duty of serving and holding together the Catholic Church as a whole to the best of his ability. And I think part of that is that the final dispositor for the Jupiter ruling the sun, and so the final dispositor of the sun, his identity, and Jupiter, his spiritual work, because the Jupiter is ruling the ninth house, is that Saturn. It is, holding something together and being an authority. And
What is
so then
Saturn the depositor? What's the depositor of the sun? Is it not Jupiter?
the depositor to the sun is Jupiter, but because Jupiter is depositor is Saturn, then you can move back to like Saturn being the depositor and having an influence in how the sun expresses itself.
Got it. And then
So
before I know you're going to complete it, so let me say that in his chart, Pluto is pretty much conjunct Mars, and we know Mars is conjunct Pluto right now. So
yeah, yep, yeah,
he is
yeah.
sitting on that Pluto, as I remarked in one of my latest videos, is like Pluto and Mars right now are looking for souls to reap. And sure
Mm,
enough,
mm.
he's sitting on that polarity. And so, wow, right on, right this
Yeah,
when
yeah.
Pluto Mars opposition is building.
Yeah, yep, yeah. And so, I mean, I think that's a good symbol for Pluto Mars aspects. Hard aspects would be the Reaper. Like Mars is the blade and Pluto is, the deep karma coming with the blade. So I think that's a pretty good, accurate aspect. Anyways, this is just a short, quick snapshot from Marduk's Muse. Let us know if you like it in the comments, because what we're trying to do here is on some major world events that everybody knows that aren't necessarily political but highly reflective of astrology. We're trying to put out some short pieces for helping people understand how astrology works and how accurate it is in describing what happens in the world.
All right,
Uh,
thanks.
I'm, yeah. Thank you, Mario. And I'm Dorje Kirsten, www.heartastrology.com. And Mario, where can people find you?
Plutonicplanes.com, and then my YouTube is Plutonic Planes. And thanks so much
Excellent.
for watching, you guys.
Yeah, thanks for watching. See you later.